name is Spencer McLeod. I'm with McLeod Farms, and we're here in McBee, South Carolina. Our farm is a fifth-generation farm. I'm fifth generation. We've been around since 1916. Our primary crop and what we're known for is peaches. But what's unique about our farm is we really have a diverse crop mix. We grow peaches, strawberries, blackberries, a variety of other specialty crops just for our retail outlet. We also grow row crops, soybeans, corn, wheat, and we also added cotton last year, and this year we're actually adding peanuts. And we also grow some seed crops, so millet, rye, and we take those crops and clean them. So, across our farm, we're growing upwards of 20 plus crops on a production level. Not just in a retail or garden sense, but we grow a lot of different crops, which is really what makes us unique. McBee is really unique because we have a pretty high elevation, and so that makes it good for growing peaches. We have a natural frost protection being on this ridge. Same thing, in Ridge Springs. But here in McBee, we have a sandy soil, and that's perfect for peaches because we can control that water supply. We can put the right amount of nutrients for strawberries in our drip, and we're a big fan of that program in plasticulture and having the ability to spoon feed our strawberries. And we grow about 50 acres of strawberries, and this year we were hit with a devastating hailstorm about 2 weeks ago, and it was something we haven't seen. I think our last hailstorm was in 2006 that really had a major impact on us. There was a hailstorm back in the early 60s that were back to back, and that was also a very devastating hailstorm. Luckily for us, it did hurt our strawberries, it did hurt some peaches, but we also have about 700 to 800 acres of peaches in a different location that didn't get near the severity of the storm down there. So we're blessed that we have peaches in different locations and are able to harvest peaches in this area. But that's the hailstorm of 2020, and you can use that in a broader sense too with COVID. It's been a hailstorm, but we're farmers, we're persistent, we've got a lot of crops. That's the main reason that we have these diverse crops, is so that we can focus on different parts of the business when it's either a market issue, if it's a weather issue. We can adapt to that. That's really been the key factor in our ability to be a long-term and farm that's been around and will stay around. We plant peach trees in January, and it usually takes about 3 to 4 years before you get a good production. The 5th year and the 6th year, you're really ramping up some volume. So we have a 3 or 4 year gap before we actually make a crop, and there's a lot that goes into those 3 or 4 years in planting and putting out irrigation. But once we hit that 4 or 5 years, we're ready for production, and we typically take that through 12 to 18 years. What's unique about us is we actually pick and prune on ladders, and so we grow a much taller tree. We get a higher density yield out of these trees, and because we're growing them larger, we actually get a little bit more life out of them, depending on how quick we were on replanting. One of the big things that we try not to do is to plant peach trees back to back, and so you really want to have a gap between replanting orchards, and that's going to help in disease control and your nematode control. One of the biggest things is oak root rot, and that can persist in the soil for a long time, and so we try to clean up those orchards as best we can with a rootivator, with some chemical applications, with planting different cover crops. A mix of those things will help us establish a better orchard. As a peach tree matures, there's several processes that we go through in the season. In January, we start pruning, and it takes us about 3 months to get over pruning. So January, February, March, we'll be pruning our trees. Once we finish pruning, we'll pretty much start moving into thinning. A peach tree will naturally, if it has set a good crop and we haven't had any frost damage, there'll be too many peaches on the tree. And so what we do is take off up to 70% of the peaches off the tree, and that allows us to have bigger fruit. If you imagine, the tree can only take up so much water and nutrients, and it disperses it to the peaches. And so we're wanting to concentrate that on some quality peaches. That's given us our size and our taste. One of the biggest things that I get from folks that have a peach tree in their backyard is, hey, I had a lot of peaches this year and they were all small and knotty and they didn't really taste good. I say one of the things that most people miss is thinning, and it's it's such a hard time to thin because you still are unsure about frost. You're unsure about even later season issues like hail. You hate to go and just throw peaches on the ground, but it is a critical process in growing a large peach and a good tasting peach. So once we get through thinning, of course during that time period we have our cover sprays back in bloom, and we'll be ready to harvest. We start our harvest generally at the end of May. This year we're about 10 to 14 days early. So it's May 20th, May 19th, and we're already, kind of in our second variety. So we are early this year. We generally go through the first week of September. So that's 3 months worth of production in peaches. And we have those varieties that come off throughout that season. One thing that a lot of folks might not realize is that peach trees only produce fruit for a 10 to 14 day period. So this variety that we're in right now, this is called Ruby Prince. We haven't actually picked in this orchard yet. We'll probably maybe skim it tomorrow. But once we start tomorrow, we'll be on about a 2 to 3 day skip. So we'll pick tomorrow, and then we'll come back in 2 days and pick again, and then 2 days again, and then after about 14 days, we're done with this variety. So in order to have peaches from middle of May through September, we have about 40 different varieties to carry us through. But the main difference, between varieties that people look for is freestones and clingstones. And so freestones are the peaches that will separate from the pit. Clingstones, their flesh actually sticks to the pit. So most people like freestones. They're easy to cook with. They're easy to peel, or not peel, but to break away from the seed. And generally, they're better tasting too. They're a later variety. So when we're ready for harvest, we pick our peaches in bins, and we actually have a barcode on every single bin. And when it gets to the pack house, we scan it in. We know what field it came from and what crew picked it. That's part of our food safety traceability initiative. We hydrocool our peaches. So this is a process where we're taking the field heat out. If you pick a peach in the 95, 100 degree weather and you bring it into a cooler, it may take a day or two just to cool down. And so what that hydrocooler does is it immediately takes that heat out of the peach. And so now we've got a minute to kind of, let's sort the peach, let's pack it. We can put this peach into the supply chain with legs. And that's a really critical part of being a commercial packer, is to cool our peaches. So once we get those in, we'll put them in the hydrocooler, and then we'll put them on our packing line. And basically what we're doing on our packing line is we're washing, we're brushing the peaches, we're grading the peaches, and then sizing them. So generally a store wants a very similar shaped, sized peach. So that's how we go in and pack our boxes, as they are 2 1/2 or 2 3/4. That's how they're priced also. And so we take those peaches and we size them and sort them, put them in boxes or trays. we've gotten into bags lately and other specialty packs and small shoe boxes. We also pack our peaches in a gift pack that will be shipped directly to a consumer. And so all that happens in the pack house. And so there's a lot of moving parts and there's a lot to keep up with. We have about 65 people that it takes to run that pack shed. And so once we get that, we put it in a cooler and we put it on a truck and we go from Miami all the way to Toronto and as far west as Texas. So we're really covering a good part of the eastern part of the United States. And we go into a variety of chains as well as produce terminals in the Northeast. So we go into a variety of chains in South Carolina. We'll be in Bilo, Food Lion, Harris Teeter. We go to Walmart occasionally. So we kind of have, we don't like to have one sole chain and have all that business. It's nice to spread that out, and we work with the Southeast and try our best to spread it around. Specialty crops are unique in how we have to harvest them. There's some specialty crops like tomatoes, they've got harvesters, and there's new things coming out every day. But generally, specialty crops require labor to manage them. I mean, whether it's harvesting or thinning or pruning, it's a requirement for us to have 75 to 100 guys in order to set, and make and harvest. I mean, we'll actually go up to about 160 people typically in our peak time in the summertime in order to actually gather this crop. So that is an issue because we have a hard time finding domestic labor that will do these jobs. And so we lean on the H2A program very heavily. We actually started the H2A program back in the mid-90s. We were one of the first farms to do that. If you're not familiar with this program, it's basically a legal way in order to get migrant labor into the country with a visa, and they have a contract, a 6, 9, 3 month, however you set it up. And we rely heavily on this. If it wasn't for these guys, we would not be able to do this. This business would not be here. And so there's a lot of, I talk about this a lot because it's such a hot topic with immigration and the wall. And, how does H2A is kind of this redheaded stepchild out in left field, that really doesn't pertain to the border in a sense as we see it on the TV, and in politics. And so, I think that there's people on both sides of the aisle and on both sides of this issue that really don't know what to do with H2A. And so that's very scary for us because we rely so heavily on this program. But my point that I want to make to everyone is that we have a choice in the United States as to whether we want to grow specialty crops domestically, and that means we need to import labor, or we can import our food. There's just no other option. We have to have migrant labor in order to harvest until the debut of a peach picker. Until we have a machine that can do this. But until that moment, this is very critical for us. And so because we want to produce food domestically, we are going to have to continue to provide programs like H2A to allow our farmers, to allow me and McLeod Farms to be able to source good labor to harvest our crop. We've had the same crew for about 20 years. A lot of these guys have been coming back repeat. Our program has about a 98 to 99% return rate. These people are really our family. We work so close with them, and there's such a trust that it's not even possible for me to think about trying to replace the people that we have. We have just world-class labor, and we want to treat our guys like anyone else. I mean, this is a family operation, and anyone who works here is our family. So one of the parts of our farm that really allow us to be efficient and to make good decisions is technology. And we have a lot of different things going on at the farm. There's from our inventory system, which seems simple enough, to soil moisture probes, to rate controllers and sprayers and planters. We really have done our best to pick technology, because there's so much out there and you can really get overwhelmed, and sometimes we can over-tech things in some cases. But we've tried to select the technology that will help us grow better products, and to really increase our efficiency, and to make better decisions. And some of that technology is in irrigation. We installed some soil moisture probes a few years back, and each year we've been adding more that help us just to make a decision, have a number to really say, let's go irrigate, or it's going to rain, we've got adequate moisture, let's hold back and not run the pumps today. I mean, those are big cost factors and big factors in how peaches taste, as far as having too much water content. And even in our row crops, we use a lot of precision ag technology and our planters, and seed population control, and using that to really say, okay, this piece of land is a high production land. Let's see what we can do with this. Let's push this a little bit. We have this hill that's a little bit lighter. Let's back off the rate. And so we're able to use our inputs more efficiently with those precision ag technology in row crops. So one of the hot topics and among consumers today is this organic versus conventional, natural. There's so many buzzwords that I think marketers have really taken advantage of the consumer and given them some misinformation about products. And so there's a lot of people that will see natural or gluten-free or organic, and they immediately ascribe those words to safe. And I think that's one of the biggest misinformation pieces out there, is that that always doesn't mean safe. One of the things that we do on our farm is we get a Primus audit. And Primus is a third-party auditor who comes out and basically checks our records. They check our facility. They watch us pick. They watch us pack. They check our surfaces for microbes and watch our cleaning processes. And this is a very long and drawn-out process where we have stacks and stacks of logs and papers that we go through. And that program, and our food safety program, is built around providing safe products in the marketplace. And so I think that we have to think about, when we talk about organic and when we talk about conventional, we really need to those are practices that farmers use to grow crops. And not always does that coincide with safety. I think that organics are good, and I don't want to sit here and say that organic production is just a bunch of smoke, because I think that overall what we're trying to do on our farm, and what I hope that other farms are trying to do is to reduce our chemical use and to reduce our pesticide residue, because there's a lot of safe pesticides out there, and there's a lot of when the moment you hear the word pesticide, you think immediately that it's something that's a chemical that's going to harm you. But again, there's a wide range of chemicals that have varying degrees of safety. We just talked about Clorox. I wouldn't recommend to anyone to chug a bottle of Clorox. Everything in moderation, right? So I mean, we need some of these chemicals are highly valuable in their sanitation abilities at the right levels and when used properly. And I think that's what conventional growers do, is that they use chemicals in order to protect their crop from disease and pests, and they use it in a way that is safe. One of my biggest gripes, though, when it comes to this debate is that we are really on the peak of efficiency. And so when I see, and again, I'm not trying to down organics, but the efficiency in some situations of organic production is very low, and there's a lot of throw out. There's a lot of excess fertilizer use because they're limited in the types of fertilizers they can use. And if we take strawberries, for example, I'm able to spoon feed my strawberry on a daily basis, where I'm not leaching any nitrogen. And every time that I make that fertilizer application in the drip tape, I know that it's going to be utilized to grow a strawberry. And then when I spray that strawberry with a fungicide, I know that I'm going to be able to harvest it. Imagine taking all these inputs, even excess inputs, to a crop that might have 30% production just because you've lost it to botrytis or anthracnose or some disease. And so what we're doing is doing our best to take the inputs that we have and really maximize, the fruit that we get out of it. Of course, in a safe way. And so, we select certain products that we think fit. And we have a program, an integrated pest management program that we are meticulously planning and looking at. It's not something that we wake up and we say, hey, let's go out and spray out for everything in the world that's out there. We select certain things and we choose those products very carefully. So my point in saying all this is that conventional production is safe, and that we need to be careful about how we look at the buzzwords that are being thrown at us at the grocery store. And some of that marketing has kind of blinded us to what actual good agriculture practices mean. Government regulation is really, they watch this stuff and they test and that's what labels are for. And as long as I follow those labels and I do that right, then I feel very confident. In the same way that you maybe put Clorox on your countertop to disinfect. That's what we're doing here, and we're doing it the right way. And so I just want to make sure that when you go to the grocery store and you see those words that are kind of trigger words for that extra 200% price increase, that you understand kind of what's going on there.